1984, a year that had been long associated with the George Orwell novel. Now that the real 1984 was upon us, what type of year was it going to be? Would 1984 be an Orwellian dystopian nightmare, or would 84 be bright, cheery, and nauseating, like a Mary Lou?
You make the call.
Today, we're going to talk about the news, culture, sports, entertainment, and all that was weird in the 80s. This is Timeline. Today, we're on to 1984. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what one of these stories from 1984 you would like to see a full video on. Now, are you ready for 84? Okay, let's make sure we keep our hot side hot and our cool side cool.
Keep it hot, hot. Keep it cool, cool. Could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever.
This is 1984.
A good time for crisp hot fry.
Starting off the year, AT&T was forced to break up into 7 smaller regional Baby Bell phone companies on January 1st.
You got any bad news?
Yeah, they told me I was getting laid off this morning.
They don't even try to place these people in the system.
By 2018, like a corporate Galactus, the company had either absorbed or consumed smaller Baby Bell companies, as well as HBO, TBS, CNN, Adult Swim and the Cartoon Network, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, and soon enough, your soul. Watching the dominoes fall held true, because on January 2nd, Germany's Klaus Friedrich set the world record for domino toppling, with a grand total of 281,581 individual pieces. On January 6th, television's crime-fighting helicopter craze started when Blue Thunder debuted. Blue Thunder had a great cast, with a baby-faced Dana Carvey and former NFLers Bubba Smith and Dick Butkus. 3 weeks later, when America asked the question, how much helicopter entertainment are we willing to accept? Airwolf answered when it flew into our TV viewing hearts on January 22nd. 8 years later, long after Airwolf was canceled, the Airwolf helicopter was sold to a German company, where it became an ambulance helicopter. On June 6, 1992, the chopper crashed during a thunderstorm, killing all 3 crew on board. Turning to music, the release of Van Halen's 1984 on January 9th changed everything for the band. They got a year's worth of chart-topping singles, starting with Jump, and ending with the release of Hot for Teacher on October 27th. Eventually, egos and the success of 1984 destroyed that band, and by July of 1985, Sammy Hagar had replaced Diamond Dave, and that original Van Halen magic was lost forever.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very big, fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
Staying with fast food, 4 days later, McDonald's Ray Kroc, the man who helped build McDonald's into the multi-billion-dollar fast food empire, died on January 14th. Kroc opened his first McDonald's franchise in 1955 in Chicago. In 1961, he bought out the McDonald's brothers for $2.7 million cash, and by 1965, opened more than 700 restaurants in 44 states. Among the many things that Kroc bought with his fortune were the San Diego Padres. We'll see Los Padres later in the year.
Paul McCartney and his family had arrived back from Barbados, where he'd been fined £70 for possessing a small amount of cannabis.
No, this isn't 1980 repeating itself. On January 15th, almost 4 years to the day after he was busted in Tokyo, Paul McCartney was arrested again for marijuana, only this time for pot possession, while on vacation in Barbados with his wife Linda. Acting on a tip, Barbados police raided McCartney's vacation house and found 10 grams.
Whatever you think and whatever you think I've done, this, I'm telling you, this substance, cannabis, is a whole lot less harmful than rum punch, whiskey, nicotine, and glue, all of which are perfectly legal.
While Paul spent 9 days in jail during his Tokyo bust, the couple was only fined $100 by a Barbados judge. Mary Jane, you've come a long way since '84, baby. 2 days later, on January 17th, the automotive industry would change forever when stylish Dodge Caravan and the edgy Plymouth Voyager debuted. When these first 2 minivans hit dealership lots, the soccer mom trucksters sold like toilet paper in a pandemic. Chrysler even hired magician Doug Henning to pimp their ride. Apple's dystopian commercial, 1984, directed by Ridley Scott, only aired once nationally, and it was on January 22nd, during the third quarter of the 1984 Super Bowl. Based off of George Orwell's novel 1984, the sledgehammer-wielding woman represented Apple, and Big Brother was IBM, which had dominated the PC market.
We shall prevail.
2 days later, Apple released the Macintosh. With a price tag of $2,495, that's over $6,000 adjusted for inflation today, the Macintosh wasn't all that popular. Many dismissed it as just an expensive toy. 3 days later, Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire on January 27th while he was filming a Pepsi commercial. As Jackson walked down a staircase on stage, a spark from the house pyrotechnics landed on his head, which was unwittingly filled with flammable hair product. Heading into February, we go to space. During NASA's space shuttle mission STS-41B on the 7th, astronauts Captain Bruce McCandless and Colonel Robert Stewart made history's first untethered spacewalk. With the aid of 300-pound nitrogen-propelled backpacks, the astronauts made 2 spacewalks during the mission. The first mission lasted 5 hours and 55 minutes, floating a football field's length away from the Space Shuttle Challenger. It was late February when David Vedder, the Houston boy who was confined to a plastic bubble for his entire life due to his severely compromised immune system, died. Vedder wasn't always confined to his bubble, though. NASA built David a hermetically sealed outfit, kind of like an astronaut spacesuit, where he could walk outside without risking infection, but David disliked the suit and only used it 7 times. David was just 12 years old. Moving into March, the United States accused Iraq of using lethal chemical weapons on March 5th against Iran during their 42-month-old war. A statement issued by the State Department said that the weapons were used in violation of the Geneva Protocol of 1925, which Iraq had agreed to in 1931. We go to Melbourne, Australia, where we find a notable first. On March 28th, Zoe Leyland, the first baby born from an embryo frozen after in vitro fertilization, was born. The embryo had been frozen for 2 months. Not very long by today's standards, but it was unheard of at the time. Just for perspective, we flash forward to November of 2017, when Emma Wren Gibson was born. She currently holds the frozen embryo record. She was on ice for 25 years. In late March, William Potts boarded an airplane bound for Miami from New Jersey on March 27th. He gave the flight attendant a note, identifying himself as Lieutenant Spartacus with the Black Liberation Army, and he demanded the plane fly to Havana, Cuba. Potts told the pilot, "We are all going to hell or Cuba." When the plane landed, Cuban authorities put the lid on Potts, charging him with air piracy, and he served 13 years in prison.
Welcome to television's unchallenged authority on wealth, prestige, and success. It's another dazzling lifestyles of the rich and famous.
The Sport of Kings has a new champion. Sly Stallone asks, anyone for polo?
Some better luck news. NYPD Detective Robert Cunningham was eating lunch at South Pizzeria on March 30th when he jokingly asked waitress Philip Penzo if they could split the potential winnings of his lottery ticket instead of tipping her.
The lotto jackpot was $6 million. I said to Phyllis, to get your tip, I'll split my ticket with you.
I picked 3 numbers and he picked 3.
And we hit.
2 days later, Cunningham called Penzo, trying to convince her that they had just won $6 million. She initially didn't believe him due to the fact that it was April Fool's Day. Their haul, $287,715 annually for 21 years each. This was no April Fool's Day prank. On April 1st, tragedy struck the music world when Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his father.
Marvin Gaye Jr. was taken to California Hospital where he was pronounced dead from gunshot wounds at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
The shooting was brought on by Gaye defending his mother from Marvin Gaye Sr., as the two had been arguing over a missing insurance policy letter. Gaye beat and kicked his father into his bedroom. Moments later, Gaye Sr. entered his son's bedroom with a .38 caliber pistol and shot the singer in the heart at point-blank range. Marvin Gaye was declared dead on arrival at the hospital, 1 day before his 45th birthday. Other sad news in April, iconic landscape photographer Ansel Adams died on April 22nd. Ansel's work and his persistent advocacy for environmental conservation helped expand the national park system. President Jimmy Carter awarded Adams with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1980. Turning to music news, on May 1st, Mick Fleetwood, drummer for Fleetwood Mac, filed for bankruptcy. The drummer said his financial downfall was caused by bad real estate investments. Oh, and a cocaine addiction that he estimates cost him $8 million. When Fleetwood did the math, he estimated 7 miles of the stuff went up his nose. Take that, Stevie Nicks. An out-of-court settlement was announced on May 7th for veterans who had suffered injury from exposure to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. When all was said and done, Dow Chemical and 6 other manufacturers paid $184 million to military veterans. Veterans were outraged that the case was settled out of court. The vets felt that they had been betrayed by their lawyers.
Many of my brothers have died where you sat up there and played political bullshit.
Gentlemen, we can't wait 20, 30, 40 years.
The settlement would only give each a maximum of $12,000, spread out over the course of 10 years. Worse than the paltry payout, by accepting the settlement, disabled veterans would be ineligible for other state benefits, such as food stamps, public assistance, and government pensions. 8 days later, after a year of battling an extremely rare type of lung cancer, comedian Andy Kaufman died in Los Angeles on May 16th. His last public appearance was at the premiere of My Breakfast with Blassie, several months earlier in March, where he showed up with a mohawk, looking gaunt and acting more reserved than usual. Kaufman then flew to the Philippines, where as a last resort, he received 6 weeks' worth of psychic surgery treatments, which Kaufman soon realized was a scam. In mid-May, after 9 months of recording and studying Press Your Luck, Michael Larson broke the record for the largest one-day total ever won on a game show.
14,136 on the line. Stop at 4,000.
Larson won $110,237 by gaming the game, memorizing the blinking light patterns to avoid whammies while almost always landing on the bonus boxes. Show producers caught this while this episode was being filmed. CBS initially refused to pay Larson, but they couldn't find a clause in the game's rules to disqualify him. Early in June, Bruce Springsteen released his 7th studio album, Born in the USA, on June 4th. Springsteen earned a Grammy for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance with Dancing in the Dark. The Boss lost the Album of the Year honors to Lionel Richie's Can't Slow Down. But at least Richie gave us the video for Hello, which still is one of the creepiest stalker-themed music videos ever. Speaking of creepy...
This is hot, Ray. Symmetrical book stacking. Just like the Philadelphia Man's Turbulence of 1947.
You're right. No human being would stack books like this.
Listen! You smell something?
In one of sport's greatest winning streaks, Edwin Moses won his 100th 400-meter hurdle race on June 16th at the Budapest Grand Prix track and field meet. In a streak that started in 1977 and ended in 1987, Moses racked up 22 more 400-meter hurdle wins, along with 2 gold Olympic medals. Bored with killing it on the track, Moses soon shifted his focus to bobsledding. He competed as the brakeman for the U.S. bobsled team at the 1990 World Cup in Winterberg, Germany. He picked up a bronze. Turning the dial on the radio, on June 18th, Alan Berg was fatally shot outside his home by 2 members of the white supremacist terror organization called The Order. At the trial for his murder, prosecutors contended that Berg was singled out because he was Jewish, and his personality provoked the anger of white supremacists. Director Oliver Stone's 1988 film adaptation of Eric Bogosian's play Talk Radio would later draw inspiration and storylines from Berg's life. Now for a notable movie first. After complaints about violence and gore in films such as Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins, the Motion Picture Association of America modified their film rating system on July 1st with the PG-13 rating. Suggested by Steven Spielberg, the PG-13 rating came with the advisory that parents are strongly cautioned to give special guidance for attendance of children under 13. The first film to be released with this rating was Red Dawn a month later on August 10, 1984.
Wolverines!
Not only were movie ratings changing, but so too the drinking laws. On July 17th, President Reagan signed the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, a law requiring states to raise their drinking age to 21 or face a 10% cut to their federal highway funding. Every state complied. In late July, America let the games begin as the 1984 Summer Olympics kicked off at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum.
In the name of the athletes, I promise that we shall take part in the Olympic Games, respecting and abiding by the rules that govern them.
Opening ceremonies included O.J. Simpson, Sam the Olympic Eagle, Jetpack Guy, and a badass Olympic song by John Williams. These Olympics were considered to be the most financially successful modern Olympics, serving as a model for future games. That said, decades later, we're still waiting for personal jetpack technology. Not cool. While the money was good for the Olympics, not so much for one of its key sponsors, McDonald's. Marketing executives started to worry that the "When the U.S. wins, you win" campaign could backfire when the Soviets, East Germans, and several other communist nations boycotted the Games. Team USA had very little competition and proceeded to crush them. Every time an American Olympian medaled, Ronald McDonald had to cough up free food and drinks. Team USA ended up winning 174 medals. While the Soviets didn't participate in the Olympics, they were always on America's minds. While sound-checking for his weekly radio address on August 11th at 9:06 a.m., President Reagan was recorded saying,
My fellow Americans, I'm pleased to tell you today that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
It was Reagan's idea of a joke. He was just improvising off-air with National Public Radio audio engineers before he gave a speech announcing a signature on the Equal Access Act.
And now, here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all of us, welcome to America's favorite answer and question game, Jeopardy!
For you toy nerds out there, Transformers made its television debut on September 17th in conjunction with Hasbro's toy line of the same name. It would take less than a year before the Transformers would crush the transforming robot toy market competition, GoBots. Meanwhile, the cartoon would go on to produce 3 animated spin-offs, 3 comic book titles, and a feature-length animated movie.
What was that universal greeting again? Never mind, I remember. Ba weep, grana weep, ninibang.
Transformers the movie would debut on August 8, 1986. No one cares about the Michael Bay movies. This would also mark the last role for the legendary Orson Welles, who voiced Unicron.
I will provide you with a new body, and new troops to command, and nothing.
Welles would pass away 1 year later on October 10, 1985. September of 1984 would see new TV shows that would shape 80s television.
Now, I'm telling you, you are going to try as hard as you can. And you're going to do it because I said so. I am your father. I brought you in this world, and I'll take you out.
5,000 street corners in greater Miami. And Gumby here's got to pick ours.
I don't believe in coincidences, especially when they involve murder or attempted murder.
Turning to sports, Sparky Anderson's Detroit Tigers won the 1984 World Series in 5 games over the San Diego Padres. The series was informally known as the Fast Food Fall Classic, with Ray Kroc owning the Padres and Domino's Pizza founder Tom Monahan owning the Detroit Tigers. That was until 1992 when the Tigers were bought by Mike Ilitch. Ilitch was also the founder and CEO of Little Caesars Pizza. Tigers, pizza, pizza. On October 26th, James Cameron's second film, The Terminator, premiered.
Where is she? Look, it may take a while. You want to wait? There's a bench over there.
I'll be back.
Flash forward to 1991, when Terminator 2 Judgment Day debuted.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. You forgot to say please.
During the filming of T2, James and star Linda Hamilton would start a relationship only to have it end in 1999 with a juicy $50 million divorce settlement. Hasta la vista, savings. President Reagan trounced Walter Mondale, the Democratic candidate, on November 6th in the 1984 U.S. presidential election. Reagan would sweep 49 out of 50 states with almost 59% of the popular vote over Mondale and his running mate, Geraldine Ferraro.
There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
McDonald's served its 50 billionth hamburger on November 20th, but it wasn't grilled by some high-as-balls teenager. That honor went to McDonald's president and CEO, Ed Renzi, who flipped the patty at New York City's Grand Hyatt Hotel, amidst throngs of TV reporters, journalists, and even a high school marching band. The burger was eaten by Richard J. McDonald, one of the founders, who cooked burger number 1 in San Bernardino, California, 36 years earlier. On the same day as America celebrated the billionth burger, scientists began searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. Tom Pearson of San Francisco State University signed a deal with California's Secretary of State, establishing the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI, which included 100 scientists among its ranks. 5 days later, on November 25th, 52-year-old William Schroeder became the second human recipient of the Jarvik 7, an artificial heart named after its inventor, Dr. Robert Jarvik, MD. 18 days after the transplant, Schroeder suffered the first in a series of strokes, eventually leaving him in a vegetative state. Schroeder died on August 7, 1986, of a lung infection, 620 days after receiving the Jarvik 7. In late November, musician Bob Geldorf assembled 37 other musicians in a Notting Hill recording studio to record Do They Know It's Christmas, intended on helping famine relief in Ethiopia. Flash forward to December 3rd when the song was released, and it went to #1 in 16 countries, raising over £8 million. New York was the first state to pass a law which required vehicle occupants to wear seatbelts, a law that came into effect on December 1st.
Cats have 9 lives, children only 1. Help them live that life. Buckle them into a car seat. No one wants a child to become a memory.
On December 2nd, more than 4,000 people were killed and 200,000 more injured after noxious gases leaked from a pesticide plant operated by a Union Carbide subsidiary in India. The incident would later be known as the Bhopal disaster. Over 40 tons of vaporous methyl isocyanate, hydrogen cyanide, monomethylamine, carbon monoxide, and other chemicals were released after an explosion. Flash forward to 2011. Now, with more than 15,000 people who had since died from the effects of the gas, India issued notices to Dow seeking payment of $1.7 billion, which was on top of the $470 million already paid, due to the lingering effects of the poison. In mid-December, Howard Cosell retired from the Monday Night Football broadcasting booth. Our favorite Cosell moment came 8 years earlier, during a Baltimore Colts and Dallas Cowboys broadcast, where Cosell introduced nachos to America. A concession stand in Texas Stadium sent up a plate to Cosell, and he couldn't stop talking about them. Man, nachos do sound good right now.
See?
Just after Christmas on December 27th, geologist Roberta Score found a Martian meteorite while snowmobiling in the Antarctic. Renamed Allen Hills 84001, the meteorite is thought to be one of the oldest Martian meteorites, proposed to have crystallized from molten rock over 4 billion years ago. And it's thought to have originated on Mars during a period when water existed on the planet's surface. A notable birth, the chosen one, LeBron James, was born on December 30th in Akron, Ohio, near Cleveland, a city that suffered decades of sports heartbreak. At age 13, James would first dunk in a basketball game. And on June 19, 2016, James won one for the land, breaking a 52-year championship drought for the city of Cleveland.
Cleveland! This is for you!
1984 would end on a somber music note, when on the afternoon of December 31st, Def Leppard's drummer Rick Allen and his girlfriend were in a car accident on a country road near Sheffield, England. Allen tried to pass another car, misjudged a curve in the road, and crashed his Corvette C4 into a stone wall, flipping the car several times. Because his seatbelt was improperly fastened, it tore off his left arm at the shoulder. Doctors were able to reattach the limb, but the operation failed due to infection. Allen didn't let that deter him. 3 years later, the one-armed drummer returned with Def Leppard on August 3rd in 1987 with the album Hysteria. It was the band's first #1 album and their highest performing release ever. 1985 was ready to hit 80s prime, a year when we would see a young boxer take his first professional fight, rock and roll being put in the hot seat, and a new game system take America by storm. But you're gonna just have to wait until next time. Coming soon, 1985. So what do you think? What do you miss about 1984? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other 80s videos.